Okay, so get this. You know how we're always going on about wanting to know the why behind things? Well, you asked for a deep dive on astrology.
Right.
And it turns out the why of its appeal is almost as interesting as astrology itself.
Really is,
Like
yeah.
this Wikipedia article you found? Wow. So much here.
A lot to unpack, yeah.
Thousands of years of history.
Mhm.
Honestly, I had no idea astrology went so far back, ancient Babylon.
Mhm.
Then you see it popping up again and again. Ancient Greece, Rome, even China.
Yeah.
Like a thread through all these different cultures.
And it's really fascinating to see how intertwined it was with, their whole understanding of the world.
Hmm.
Like the article mentions Babylonian astrologers. They weren't just reading the stars for fun.
Right.
They actually believed that the movements of those celestial objects, they directly impacted things happening here on Earth.
So it wasn't just like, oh, what's my horoscope today? It was like their reality, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It reflects this worldview where humans weren't separate from the cosmos, but a part of it.
Hmm.
I mean, kings and rulers would consult astrologers for advice on everything. Warfare, agriculture, you name it.
Wow. Talk about high stakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got these ancient roots,
Right.
but then as we go through history, it's not like astrology gets pushed aside as just like fortune tellers and stuff.
Right.
This article talks about it being a scholarly tradition.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
studied by some of the brightest minds.
Oh, yeah, for centuries.
Mhm.
The line between astrology and astronomy, it was blurry at best.
Mhm.
Think about it, before telescopes, any kind of sophisticated instruments, all you had was looking up
Right.
naked eye observation.
And from that, they're making these incredible mathematical calculations, developing calendars, trying to understand like human health and temperament.
It's a lot more complex than what we often think of.
Way more than like just your sun sign in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, before we go any further, maybe we should clarify some of those basic astrology terms for anyone listening who might be new to all this.
Yeah, good idea.
You know, when you were talking about those sun sign things earlier,
Hmm.
it made me think about like most people have heard of a birth chart.
Like,
Do you think everyone actually knows what one is?
oh, that's a good point. Yeah, easy to forget.
Yeah.
For anyone just kind of dipping their toes into the astrology world, a birth chart can seem a little mysterious,
Right.
but it's actually fairly straightforward. Basically, imagine a snapshot of the exact position of all the planets and the stars at the moment you were born.
Mm-hmm.
And this celestial blueprint, so to speak, can reveal, a lot about you, according to astrologers: personality traits,
Yeah.
strengths, weaknesses, even your potential life path.
It's like an astrological fingerprint or something.
Oh, right, exactly. Totally unique to you.
And this article does a good job of explaining how, for a long time, these ideas weren't really questioned,
Mm,
but then you get the rise of modern science and things start to shift a little, right?
absolutely. Yeah, the article really highlights how the scientific method, with its emphasis on observation, experimentation,
Right.
repeatable results,
Mm,
that really put astrology under a whole new level of scrutiny.
right.
And, well, the evidence just wasn't really there to support it.
Like that 1985 experiment you mentioned before, the one published in Nature. And for people who don't know, Nature, that's like
Oh, yeah.
the big time when it comes to science journals.
Huge.
So this was a big deal, and it was set up to test that core claim, right? That birth charts can predict personality.
Exactly. Yeah, and it wasn't just a small study either.
Right.
We're talking prominent astrologers, rigorous methodology. They were given birth charts and personality profiles and had to match them up.
You'd think if astrology worked, they'd get it right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But, and this is what's amazing, the results were basically the same as chance.
Wow.
Like flipping a coin to determine someone's personality.
Wow.
It was a huge deal.
So like a real turning point for a lot of people in the science community.
Oh, absolutely. It really provided strong evidence that astrology, at least as a tool for predicting things, just doesn't hold up.
It really makes you stop and think, though, right?
Right.
Because if it's not backed up by, scientific evidence, why does it still fascinate so many people? It's not just a few people either.
Yeah.
This article talks about millions who like look at their horoscopes and consult astrologers and stuff, right?
Yeah, millions. Yeah, not just casually.
Yeah, like regularly.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really interesting, because if we move past this idea of validating it as science,
Hmm.
we can start to appreciate it for what it is: a cultural phenomenon, a way humans have tried to make sense of the universe for
Right. Yeah.
like millennia,
Right, like we were saying, that need to find meaning and make those connections and stuff.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, I think astrology gives them a framework, even if it's not,
Mhm.
scientifically validated.
Yeah.
It helps them to understand life
Yeah.
and how complicated it is.
It's like, sometimes you just want a good story. You're not always looking for logic.
Right.
And astrology's got all that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Archetypes, symbols, cosmic drama, it's all there.
And what we forget sometimes is that it's not just one thing.
Right.
Like even this Wikipedia article, it's just scratching the surface.
Hmm.
But you can see how diverse all these astrological traditions are.
Mm.
Like you were saying, Hindu astrology, it's a whole different
Yeah, I mean, different. Wait,
history, different methods, different
zodiac signs.
Yeah.
See, this is what I love. Always learning something new. So it's not like just Mercury retrograde for everybody.
No, not at all. I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
If astrology is this language we created
Yeah.
to understand the universe, our place in it,
Right.
different cultures are going to have their own dialects,
Right.
right? Like music,
Okay, yeah.
all these genres and styles,
Yeah.
but still
That's a good analogy, yeah.
powerful, yeah.
So anyone listening, if you're curious, don't think this is it.
Right.
Like, there's a whole world out there beyond your daily horoscope.
Oh, yeah.
But even with all that,
Yeah.
we can't just ignore the
Right, right.
science side of things.
The elephant in the room, yeah.
Yeah, like how do we make sense of this ancient practice with what we know now?
That is the big question, isn't it? I think it's about finding that balance, between being skeptical and open-minded,
Oh.
appreciating its history, the cultural impact, but also those limitations.
Right, so not about right or wrong, but more like
Yeah,
a tapestry or something.
exactly.
Our fascination with the cosmos, this need to make sense of things.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so fascinating about humans, right?
Mm,
We're drawn to the rational, but also the unknown.
right.
And sometimes those things, they can coexist
Yeah, I like that.
and even enrich our understanding.
It's not about just accepting everything blindly, but also not just tossing something out because it doesn't fit, right?
Exactly.
When you asked for this whole deep dive into astrology,
Yeah,
but you didn't think you'd end up with more questions.
right.
But hey, maybe that's a good thing, right?
I think so.
Sparks that curiosity, makes you want to keep digging.
Keeps things interesting.
Exactly. So I guess the question now is, where do you go from here? What's your next deep dive?